Hi everyone, my name is Brittany Contreras and I'm in the Latinx group. So for my questions were, what long-term and short-term problems were they resisting? So the Young Lords Party was a political party that was started by the Puerto Ricans, and they were resisting racism. That was one of the biggest issues that they had. So they started a 13-point program of the issues they wanted to not hide anymore and make sure their brothers and sisters were getting the right treatment as many other Americans. Most of these issues had been going around for a long time and they needed to be resolved and stay that way forever. They wanted fair treatment from the whites who enslaved them and made billions off of them. So they stated, no Puerto Rican is free until all people. They wanted every other person of color to get the same treatment. Biggest issue they wanted to resolve was racism and trying to defeat it. They wanted their communities to not be taken over by the rich/whites. They wanted access to their land, wanted control on their health service, schools, churches, police, and welfare. They wanted control on their labor and wanting to oppose American military. They also wanted freedom fighters free because they were put in jail just for fighting back for basic human rights. So if they would go out to protest, police would often arrest them just for no reason. They wanted equal opportunity for women. With this point, they wanted to emphasize it to everyone on this issue because women are being given unequal opportunities just because of their gender. They also stated, when a government oppresses our people, we have the right to abolish it and create a new one. So just wanting an equal treatment between governments on how they're being sentenced in court, or because when you're comparing a white person to a person of color in court, obviously we see a white person getting a better chance and trying to get out. So they just wanted a society where people's needs come first, giving them opportunities in jobs, schools, and having healthcare. So my second question was, how did they resist? So examples of events or actions that they were being involved in. So there wasn't so much resistment, but more fighting back for the people and getting justice. And while doing that, they just fought back for awful things that they have been going through on with their people and with their communities. So one person I want to talk about was who tragically passed away, Julio Roldan. He passed away from suicide, but others think that guards killed him. He never got a chance to even say his story just because he was a person of color and the police didn't care about them. So another event was police brutality was one of the biggest issues, where James Lamb, a police officer, shot Manuel Ramos and was killed. Charges were never made against the police officer. So these certain events led them to start to fight back and protect themselves because they only had each other. Not even own police officers who were supposed to protect and serve everyone didn't help them. They just made things worse. So for my last question was, how did the structure of race, patriarchy, and capitalism create or affect what they were resisting on the resistance? So for race, since everyone felt so divided between one another, they wanted to change that by helping out everyone and their communities and trying to understand everyone's issues rather than comparing. For patriarchy, they talked about machismo, meaning how men thought it was okay to treat women unequal just because of their gender. So they wanted to get equal treatment for the women. So they needed to change that within households and society. So for capitalism, a huge part of this issue was because many of them struggle with free healthcare, food assistance, housing being taken away and being gentrified, meaning they couldn't afford housing in their own communities. So often the rich would buy their land and make like companies that make them money. Also, schools in their area were not having special programs, like comparing to other schools who did have money and did have the programs. And most of these schools needed that in order to try to get equal treatment. So the whole issue was not getting equal treatment. So the whole point of the Young Lords political party was to fight for their neighborhood and empowerment for the Puerto Ricans, Latinos, and colonized people, and many other more people along the way.